Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. I'm host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you as usual. Where are all my peeps? But at least we're here with our one and only beautiful union engineer, Yvette Avery Herod. We also have May from Atlanta, Georgia. We also have May Wood from Long Beach, California. We also have AVQ from Brooklyn, New York. And let's see who else is in the house. That's the only people that are registering right now. That's odd. Although the count says quite a bit much more than that. E2247 is in the house. He says Congress is back today and include votes on an incredibly dangerous bill, H.R. 9475. H.R. 9475, Stop Terror, Finance, and Tax Penalties on American Hostage Act. All right, let's see what else we got here. What else we got? It started late. Yeah, yesterday it started late. Today, I got a tiny bit better. Melanie Keelan is in the house from Barcelona, Spain. Welcome, Melanie Keelan. How are you doing today? Great to see you here. All right. Rudnin has Egberto, one of two for the screen. Let's see what it says. Make sure you don't get me into trouble. All right. I think that looks okay. Let's go ahead and put that onto the screen. Let me read it. For the first time in modern history, a graph showing every major nation's governing party has lost their re-election bid this year. We were on a change election cycle as people across the world were pissed off about the post-pandemic economic recovery, and Kamala Harris failed to distinguish herself from Joe Biden. This is why Democrats lost the election, as was the case across the world. Can it seriously be said that the price of groceries were more important than abortion, democracy, and the environment for enough people? Yes, economic hardship were. There are the graphs of, what is that? Every governing party facing election in a developed country this year lost vote shares. The first time this has ever happened. Let me just say one thing then. While I do not discount that is an issue, right? Americans are not dumb. There's a big distinction between Harris and Biden, and especially between Harris and Trump. But that notwithstanding, you have to make believe that I can understand the countries in Europe. Why? Their economic system did not come back like our economic system came back. Our inflation is down to 2.1%. Our wages have gone up. We are not in the same state as Europe. Yes, we did much better than Europe, and that should have been the winning cause. However, Trump was able to convince Americans, right, that this was not an economic message. I played to you guys yesterday. I think it was Dr. Eddie Glaude. This was not an economic loss. We can't, you can draw similarities in things that occur here and there that really are simply accidental similarities. And that's what it is. The world went through a recession. All those guys lost, and we lost too. It's easy to look at it and say that, but that's not the case, because while they have not recovered, we recovered quickly. Not only did we recover quickly, but before Republicans took back power, we actually cut poverty. We did a lot. It's not an economic message unless you allow somebody to fool you into believing it's an economic message so that your inner prejudice can come out. This is the one thing that has me extraordinarily upset with the mainstream media. Very upset with the mainstream media. This was a racial, sexist vote. Period. There is no trying to get around it or whatever. I mean, the initial part of your message is correct. You don't get a preponderance of women, educated women. Well, specifically, you don't get that. The amount of educated women that voted against Kamala Harris, knowing the state of the birth control issue. The amount of women who went and voted for the abortion bills in their red states and then voted for the guy who would continue to try to create laws that hamper those constitutional, because again, it is silly, right? What is easy to understand? Donald Trump is going to be the president of the entire country. He can have all those laws that are constitutional right now eliminated. He owns the Supreme Court. He could make all those laws in those individual states. He can make them moot by the Supreme Court simply coming out and saying a fetus has personhood. And all of those constitutional amendments are gone. Understand this, people. Don't follow the mainstream media. They are purposefully dumb. Let me go through the scenario here. All right. We have women. First of all, we all went to school. We all should know that there is state law and federal law, and that federal law trumps state law. Period. Federal law trump state law. Now, if there isn't a corresponding federal law, a state law can come into effect. However, Donald Trump can find many ways around a state law, even if it's constitutional state law. And how do you do that? Let's give some example. Metroplex make that there's this law, what is it, where you cannot transmit pornographic stuff or anything dealing with sex across borders. The Comstock Act, make the Comstock Act enforceable. Those state laws mean absolutely nothing. Another thing they could do, go to the Supreme Court, and when you go to the Supreme Court, go ahead and say a fetus, that personhood begins at birth. That's all the Supreme Court has to say. Personhood starts at birth. And while today most of the people there, most of the Supreme Court justices would likely not give a fetus personhood, guess what? Donald Trump could likely put somebody else on the bench that will say the fetus has personhood. And once the fetus has personhood, any state law, absolutely any state law that tells a woman she has the right to an abortion is dead. And you sit down and ask yourself the question, is it that we're so smart that we understand these concepts? No. The people who voted for Trump needed to find something to hold on to, so that the reality that they are racist and sexist, why they hadn't voted for Kamala Harris as opposed to voting for a criminal, sexist, misogynist thug, was actually something okay to do. It's so important. It's so important that you understand that, people. Stop listening to the mainstream media. You're being filled up with crap. This economic message is BS. The economic message is BS. If we really want a true economy that works for everybody, you would elect progressives who would dismantle the way capitalism functions right now and make sure that we don't get laws that allow a few people, a few companies, a few people to accumulate your money, your capital, because that's what our capitalism does today. It takes your money. And you say, could you take some more of my money? When you vote for a Trump, when you vote for a Republican, when you vote for a neoliberal Democrat, that is what you're doing. You're voting against your own interest. You're voting to have them take what's yours. You're voting for them to say, wow, we're not going to give you Medicare, or you're going to have to be poor before you get Medicaid. They take, as you're living, you're building your assets. And as you die, if you happen to get sick, not die suddenly, and need assistance, they take everything that you've worked for. America needs to smarten up. We were getting there back in the late 60s, early 70s. And as Reaganomics began, the decline started. That's why they don't want you to read. That's why they don't want you to have critical thinking. That's why they don't want you to know too much. Because an intelligent person would never vote for Trump. An intelligent person would never vote for a neoliberal Democrat. An intelligent person would never vote for a Republican, absolutely under any circumstances. Now, as a placeholder, they would vote for a few Democrats that are leaning neoliberal until they can replace them. But if you understand a modicum of economics, a modicum of how we function and how capital moves in this country. I mean, when you hear that Donald Trump got elected and Elon Musk gained over $20 billion in one day, you sit back and like, what has he done for that? And what has he taken away from you to be able to do that? And you sit down and revel, hey, Elon Musk, a genius. Elon Musk is no genius. He can't even program a computer. It's written. People who know him talk about it. He's not very smart. He's a persona. You know who the smart people are? Those people you don't hear about that have allowed SpaceX to fly and capture. You know who the smart people are? The people that are able to put the space station up. So people, smarten up and have some dignity in thyself. Have dignity in yourselves. Nobody is a billionaire. Nobody can be a billionaire if the money isn't stolen. Okay? Vamos a poner algo en el cráneo, por favor. Let's do it. Okay? All right, folks. So look, let me go ahead and play my Veterans Day message I gave to my KPFT listeners today. Then I have another video that you have got to hear. I'm going to wait for a few more people to come, and that's why I'm going to play a little boring video about my doings yesterday. But I have a message at the end of that video that I want you to consume and that I hope you can relay to the people who think they should hate immigrants. Let's go with that, and then we'll take it on the other side. I had a hell of a weekend. It was a Panamanian weekend where we brought some firemen, we call them the first responders from Panama, to celebrate the Veterans Day. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and we attended the Veterans Day parade. We had a contingent of, probably just under 100. Well, actually, the big band didn't come, so it was probably about 50 something Panamanians or so marching with the veterans who fought in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and all these other wars on behalf of the United States. We've lost thousands of Panamanians, and I'm not talking about just injured, but deaths. Thousands of Panamanians have also fought in all these wars, including Iraq. And my good friend from Panama, Roberto Luis, formed a group called Pantex as a veteran. It's a 501c3. And his dream was to have a weekend to expose what our folks from our culture has done in this country. And I kind of lent some legs, very little legs to it, because again, like I said, this was his dream to put out there. And we had 3 days of Veterans Day celebration with a whole bunch of Panamanians right here in Houston, and many who flew in from all over the country and from Panama. And it was a wonderful thing culminating in the parade yesterday. And we were a big part of that parade downtown as we saw the Panamanians with their polleras, which is a dress style that we have, the women in these beautiful dresses with colors and a lot of beads in their hair. And the men, the montunos, which is they're dressed in a kind of simple black and white, sort of like a guayabera, something that we wear. And, was very well received in downtown. But one of the things that we wanted to do, as I was telling Roberto, is that we wanted to show with the state that we have in this world, the way Trump speaks about those folks that are south of the border, they are animals. In other words, we are animals. Those of us that came and naturalized and became U.S. citizens, we are animals, criminals, and all these things. But the truth of the matter is what we showed yesterday are folks who fought for this country, lost members of this country. After I gave the little talk, when our band, rather not band, but when our group passed, I kind of gave a little spiel about what we are, who we are, and what we've done, our positive doings for this country. As I walked back in, after I did that, I walked into our crowd, our group that was marching. And just one of the Panamanian chicks just slapped me and said, that is true. My uncle, or I don't remember, died in the Vietnam War. Just if most Americans understood that the people that come here south of the border have always been, not sometimes been, have always been a net positive for this country. Always been a net positive for this country. Because in fact, this country was formed by people who came here. But I always, whenever you feel that angst toward the immigrant, whenever you feel that you want to disparage the immigrant, whenever you think the immigrant is taking something from you, the first thing to remember is many of the, well, not all of the founders were immigrants to this country. But unlike the immigrants of today, and this is important to inculcate in one's mind, this is not an attack. This is not a charge. This is just a reality check. The immigrants that are coming over here today, the vast majority aren't criminals. I'm talking about criminals or what you count on the fingers. The vast majority are not criminals. All they're coming for here is to make a better life for themselves. They're coming, and in making a better life for themselves, they have actually assisted in America. From the people who are doing your lawns to the Steve Jobs of Arab descent, to all those folks in Silicon Valley, all those folks that have been innovative. These are immigrants coming to this land. And one last point: these immigrants are coming not to conquer, but to work. Our original immigrants here came, conquered, maimed, killed, enslaved. So before you point your finger at anybody crossing the border today, and remember those who crossed the border in 1619 or elsewhere, remember that was crossed in the form of conquering. That is not an attack on any specific, because I don't know of any country that was formed without some sort of a violence, the nature of humanity that we are trying to mitigate right now. I don't think we should have that problem. That's why, in as much as I don't support war, I also don't support what Russia has done to Ukraine. I don't support what Israel is doing to Gaza. But let's keep perspective. That angst that got Trump elected, that fear that got Trump elected, is something that we have to work on from within. And we have to learn that. Make us better people.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so much for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please. Join.
Absolutely, folks. Please join our fold. Let me get back to, I hope you got that, and I hope you got the message that I'm trying to get over. Let me get back to Brother Rodnin's messages here. Egberto, here's the other one for the screen. People are pissed off about the post-pandemic economic recovery, and Joe Biden ended the anti-poverty programs that help people through their struggles. The only problem, the same people who expect Trump to change course don't realize that he and the Republicans always make the situation worse for working class people, mostly because those in the power in the Republican Party have pathological hatred of the poor. Trump's next play is predictable. Blame immigrants for the problems, followed by harsh crackdowns, which will make our nation unrecognizable and our people suffer. And yes, that includes the MAGA. Well, actually, that includes the MAGA in the room who don't know what's coming down the line. Actually, it will hurt MAGA more than it'll hurt progressives, because MAGAs are much poorer than progressive. They're in red states, and when you look at the statistics, they are the ones that are hurt more by Republican policies. And here we go. But I want to make sure that clarifies something from that message. Biden didn't end the poverty, the things that took people out of poverty in his second year. Republicans ended it along with a cinema and a mansion. Let's make sure and get that straight. Cinema, like I said, neoliberals. Cinema, Manchin teamed up with the Republicans to force Biden not to give people what they've earned. Okay? That's why you shouldn't vote for neoliberal Democrats or Republicans. When you do that, you're voting against your own interests. All right, let me put that on the screen. I thought it was on the screen, but here it goes on the screen. All right, next one from Brother Rodney. Newsweek, left-wing Starlink election conspiracy theory spreads online. I understand the underlying notion is the incongruity between the nearly voting is breaking records, but the total vote tally is 10 million short. Why did Kamala Harris get 10 million fewer votes than Joe Biden in 2020? Despite no pandemic and fascists threatening our democracy or reproductive rights on our planet, it can't be racism and sexism. Can it? It is really economic hardship. I don't know, but there's no evidence of that missing votes. To be clear, our election system is not connected to the internet, not by Starlink or ISP, and the few machines that do not have connectivity use private local area networks to merge their look. The 10 million votes that's missing is easy to figure out. When Kamala Harris turned to the right, I don't say she turned to the right in her values, but turned to the right to bring in more people like Liz Cheney and seem to specify a lot of things that won't upset them, meaning like, we are going to make the social safety net much stronger. That, a lot of people weren't inspired to vote. I think they're foolish not to have voted. Okay. But we have to teach people to be smarter voters. We have to teach people how to vote smarter, how to hold the line. That's why we have Politics Done Right and other programs like this, right? TYT and many others, because we are trying to keep people, what again? Thinking right. All right, Michael Rudden, Mint News. Russian media air nude pics of Melania Trump after Donald Trump wins in U.S. polls. Netizens say Russia laughing at us. Wonder how the MAGAs in the chat are reacting to this. I'm going to guess most of them have heard about what Russian news really recently pulled, since it affects their leader. Oh, wow. So let's see what that is here. It is not hard to, like we said, we've constantly been a laughing stock. Here is a story. Russian media air nude pics of Melania Trump after Donald Trump wins in U.S. polls. Netizens say Russia laughing at us. Of course they're laughing at us. The rest is laughing at us. It's amazing, right? It's amazing. All right. Thank you for putting that up, Senor Ratnin. All right. Let me go back down to reading our messages here. Jay Ray is in the house. He says, greeting PDR posse. Let's see who else we got that I haven't mentioned yet. I think I saluted our beautiful Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain, and our beautiful Yvette Avery Everett. And we're Yvette Everett, Atlanta. Sometimes my mind freezes temporarily. It shouldn't, but every now and then it freezes temporarily. What happened? I guess somebody tried to call and it didn't go through. All right. Why is Facebook frozen? You keep saying that, Eric. I think you better go reboot your computer, refresh your cache or something. I don't think it's frozen for anybody else. Okay. Eric Hayes says, bill him for. All right, let's continue. Eric, you got to look, I want to read your stuff, but you make it very, very difficult based on your sources. My beautiful Peggy Lopez. Peggy Lopez is back from Mexico to the country that's made themselves the laughing stock of the world. How are you doing, Peggy?
Yeah, no kidding. We should have been the laughing stock for decades, but that they finally get it is pretty good. Yeah, I decided to come back, and if I leave, it will be with visas to go someplace, not just jumping ship. And
there you go. Well, Peggy, I like I told you earlier, my dear Peggy, if you try to leave the country, the PDR posse will be all over looking for you. We'll send them out into every state to make sure that you're right back here. We are fighting this. What do I call it? What is it called again? The obsession, not the obsession. I think I'm losing my mind sometimes. The resistance. We are fighting this resistance together to make sure that people stop getting harmed. And guess what, Peggy? You are part of the resistance.
What? Oh, I've always been a part of the resistance, Egberto.
I know that.
It also is really hard for me to listen to most of the commentary right now because my mindset is that we have been battling the patriarchy, that they were losing some power, and when they had a little old man in Biden to argue with, it was really good for them because they could just argue that he had lost his way and that he had lost his power. And they could just slide in behind him and be power again, and then they would have power. And when they had a biracial woman to contend with, it got really ugly because they had seen that they had lost a lot of their power. They were struggling to get it back, and now they will be struggling in the ugliest ways to keep it. The problem is that I'm looking at right now is that so many of the American people have, in many ways, pulled themselves out of their patriarchy conditioning, but they haven't fully pulled out. And I think that's a big problem that we're dealing with because they're still of the mindset that the patriarchy has put upon every person listening, probably every person on the planet. I can't think of a country that doesn't have patriarchal
tendencies.
Veins. Yeah. Beyond tendencies, the framework that they structure their lives around. When I worked, I heard that they were trying to tell the women Republicans not to vote like their husbands. When I worked at the polling places, the husbands would come in and say, "Oh, she needs my help to vote," and the two of them would go into one polling place with two ballots. Now, both of those ballots looked exactly alike.
Exactly right. Yep. And,
it was really difficult for me to hear that because the women of the patriarchy are way from the time they got pink booties on were groomed to be the patriarchal person that they became.
It is shameful, my dear. It is shameful. But you know what, Peggy? We have to get it done. Look, I got another video that I need to get. I hear it's 14 minutes, but I want everybody to see this. So let's do this. Please give me a call back tomorrow. Let's finish this conversation, okay?
Okay.
Thank you,
I'll
Peggy.
talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Just before I go to Peggy, I want to remind you, let's see, Paul Fleming is in the house. Lee, the Bearcat, is in the house. Paul Fleming is from Atlanta, Georgia. Lee, the Bearcat, I'm not sure where you're from. Tell me where you're from sometime. We also have in the house, I'm scrolling down. I like to make sure and call out all my peeps. Paul, I'll read some of your stuff after the video. E224. Carl Cox is in the house. Hey, Carl. We also have in the house Peggy Lopez, of course, who we just spoke to by phone. We also have, I'm scrolling down to make sure I reach all. Tom C. Formula for GOP success. For fascist, Elon equal felon for Trump. There you go. Love that one. Short and sweet. All right. I want you to listen to this video. And not only do I want you to listen to this video, I want you to share this video. Okay. It's very important. As I play this, I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube. Then I'll give you the link and say, folks, please share this video. Here we go right now. I am an immigrant. I came from Panama, Central America. I came from the places from the area where a lot of these immigrants are coming from, whether it be Venezuela, Honduras, El Salvador, it's Latin America and the Caribbean. I understand what happens in all these parts of the world. I understand, in fact, what our economic system imposes on the economic system of others that gives a preference to what occurs here in America at the detriment of places in Latin America, whether it be fruits in Central America or rice in Haiti. There are a lot of treaties, etc., a lot of stuff, if you will, that goes beyond the scope of this video that causes the migration that we see, and above and beyond that, also political issues. Venezuela. Imagine if we hadn't sanctioned Venezuela the way we are. Imagine if we didn't try to freeze them into oblivion. That is what we do as a country. And this is important for you to understand. That is what we do as a country. Do it or our way or the highway. And if the country says we're not going to do it your way, then we penalize that country. And when we penalize that country, the pain that comes to that country brings a whole lot of people from that country over here looking for relief from what many a times we've imposed on them. But let's forget about that for now. I want to show the psyche of a Latino family and why this particular Latino family decided to vote for Trump and the hypocrisy with which this family decided to go for Trump. We'll discuss it after the series, but it's imperative that you stick around to hear some analysis on my part.
This one family that I've been in touch with here in Las Vegas for months helps explain a lot of what's going on. Take a look.
No, not right now.
Mario and Mireya Alvarez found the American dream in Las Vegas.
Would you like some coffee?
They came to the U.S. from Mexico and Guatemala in the 80s. With his job in a supermarket and her job in a casino,
They bought a house and raised 3 children. Now they wonder if their kids and grandkids will inherit that dream. Is it still possible to do that for the younger generation?
That's my main concern right now. What's going to happen to our new generation? Nowadays, they're not even able to move out of their houses anymore because everything is so expensive.
Life wasn't expensive as it is right now.
First PlayStation.
We first met Mario back in February when he was seriously considering a vote for Donald Trump. He was undecided with previous votes for George W. Bush, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Biden. At the last minute, he broke for Kamala Harris. But today, he's not upset about the results.
I'm kind of more happy than upset. Why? Because Donald Trump is going to help the country with the economy.
The whole household is happy. And their 29-year-old son, Mario Jr., did vote for Trump.
Initially, I will say I did not agree with him. And then I started seeing that he was not afraid to speak his mind. And I noticed that he was not scared to say what he felt, regardless of what people would say. And I think I respect that about him.
So you liked his kind of brashness, his personality?
Yeah, I would say yes.
They're not alone. Across the country, Donald Trump made huge inroads with Latino voters. According to NBC exit polls, 55% of Latino men nationwide voted for Trump, a 19-point jump from 2020. Among Latina women like Mireya, an 8-point gain. And while Vice President Harris won a slight majority of the Latino vote overall, Trump increased his support 14 points from the last election. The top issue among Latino voters, like it is for the Alvarez family, the economy, with immigration a distant fourth. Mario and Mireya both crossed the border illegally as teenagers, but became citizens under President Ronald Reagan's amnesty. They see themselves as different from migrants crossing the border today. In what way do you think they're different?
The people that are coming here are the criminals, the ones that did something bad in their country. They're running away from their law.
Despite having close family members who are undocumented,
Migrant invasion.
they don't believe they'll end up in Trump's crosshairs. When you hear Trump promise mass deportations, do you worry about that?
Yes and no, because the ones that I know, they're doing good. They're not breaking any laws.
I believe he's going to start deporting all the bad people.
Trump won over the Alvarez family and many like them. Whether the economy improves and who exactly he chooses to deport may determine if he keeps them.
My family is Latino and a lot of them are immigrants. But at the end of the day, we're American.
As I said, when I started the video, I am from Central America. I understand a lot of the problems caused by many a times by our policies that causes a lot of migration over here. I already mentioned the rice issue in Haiti, but here is the hypocrisy. For whatever reason, this woman from, I think she said she's from Honduras or Guatemala, one of Central American countries, my sister country, and the dad, I think, from Mexico, they both came over the border illegally. They're illegal. They were here illegally. And still, those who are trying to get the same opportunity that they had, they want to deny. They came here, they went through the cracks and became citizens. Now, I want to ask you one question. Why do you think this Latino family that understands the reason that they crossed the border, understands the economic opportunity they were seeking, and they did come here and lived a great life, and I'm happy for that, and I don't want them to go back, but that they're so hard on those who are still trying to come, that they're so hard, and not only hard, but maliciously so, as they call them criminals. How did that happen? How are those people coming over now criminals, but you aren't? How did that happen? And that is a major, major issue we have to tackle, because that is where Democrats failed. Donald Trump and his cabal, they were up on radio, social media, and in Spanish. I heard it myself. First of all, demonizing Democrats as not being for you. Demonizing, giving the impression that the border issues didn't really concern Latinos. It concerned criminals. They decentralize the being of those people crossing the border from who they really are. And that abstraction gives that Latino family in, I think it was Las Vegas or wherever, or Reno, or wherever they are, the ability to disassociate themselves from those who are crossing now. It is the best psychological genius from the Republican Party, right? In other words, they hate this family. There's no doubt. You ask Miller, Mr. Trump's new czar that's going to handle immigration, what he thinks about these guys here. He doesn't want to have anything to do with them. America is for Americans. Of course, the border cross Mexico, not the other way around. But when you see what they've done with these people psychologically, this is what the message was over and over again. This was psychological warfare, not just social media warfare. It was psychological warfare that just didn't begin 3 months before the election. This psychological warfare has been going on for 9 years or more as it picks people off. And the same psychological effect it's doing with, let's say, the Latinos, right? In the case of Latinos, and by the way, I happen to share Latino, Caribbean, Black, the whole shebang. So I understand the psychology of what they're doing here. Listen to the psychology. This is great. What they've done is they directed their ad. That is the marvel of the internet, social media, and directed radio, right? Because what they do is they send different messages to different listeners. To Latino women, they send the message of fear, and that somehow those people coming over the border, they're not like you. They're not like you. They don't put on the Latinidad onto those people. So that woman can feel that if she votes for Trump, she's voting for her security. On the guy, it's like, hey, they're coming for your job, and they're criminals, and they're coming for your women. I mean, the kinds of ads that we're talking about. The target of these ads, your masculinity, that kind of ad. To Jewish people, they go ahead and they say, Kamala Harris loves Palestinians and she would be a detriment to Jews. It didn't work too well with Jews as they still voted north of 70% for her. And then they go to Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims and tell them, look, she's married to a Jewish guy, and this Jewish guy has her ears, and it'll hurt you. Because notice that she's not stopping Biden from bombing as if she could, as if AIPAC or any of the other lobbyists from Israel would allow anybody, Trump or her, to do anything other unless they decide to have the resolve to fight. And then how do you talk to white men? You don't have to talk too much about that other than to tell the guy that's digging coal, the guy that's working in the mine, the guy that is not college educated. Look at those uppity, you know what there. They are getting all these government forgiveness for their loans. Did anybody forgive your loan for your pickup truck? I mean, the directed marketing was perfect. And imagine, even with that directed marketing, the election was by the time all the votes are counted, Donald Trump would have won the popular vote by probably 1%. But look, I try to tell people several times, the race was won specifically because of the fears Donald Trump put into mostly white people that a woman, first of all, we know that the country is already a misogynist country. So getting over the woman hump would have been tough. Hillary Clinton thought she got over the woman hump, and for all practical purposes, she did because she won the popular vote. She just didn't win it in the right states. Kamala Harris was a backslide, and that backslide had everything to do with her hue and a woman. In other words, she had a whammy that Hillary Clinton didn't have to overcome. Folks, we have to change this country. We have to make this country a better country. We have to stop the psychological warfare that continuously wealthy people who can afford to can go ahead and mess with people's minds. We need, those of us in the independent media, we need not only funding, we need support so that we can counteract those messages that have gotten to all these people. Imagine if you can convince a Latino that came over here illegally that somebody else doing the same thing is a criminal. That is a great psychological feat. And the only way to arrest that is for us to counter program. What we do here at Politics Done Right, we counteract the programming wherever we can get a foothold. Our videos and our videos and blogs and articles and books, yeah, they get thousands of viewings, but we need more. We need more support to do all this stuff. So I'm going to tell you something. If you want us to really have a change, a lot of what we do needs to be funded. So when you see us say, please go ahead and give us a super chat, or go ahead and give us a thank you in YouTube, or go ahead and sign up at politicsdoneright.com, or go ahead and become a part of our Substack and become a paid subscriber to our newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. When we're asking you that, it's because the only way we are going to change the message is if we are supported in such a manner that we can put that message out. A Latino family who came over here illegally, look at all other illegal or the folks that cross the border illegally as criminals. Think about that and think about how much work we have to do to deprogram what the Trump message has done. Absolutely. So what we have to do, the program is huge. Anyway, HR 9495, thank you for forcing me to take this up, E2247. Let me just point out, I'm going to just give you an important synopsis. Do call your congressperson and say you don't want that vote supported. Here's how it goes. If you're a nonprofit organization, there are several kinds of nonprofits, okay? There are C3s and there are C4s. C3s can actually just do educational material. They can't do politicking. They can't support candidates, all that kind of stuff. 501c4s can do that. They can actually support candidates. They can support policies, all that kind of stuff. Politics Done Right is neither a C3 or a C4 because I want total freedom. I don't want anybody to be able to tell me what I can say and not say. But guess what? Under this new bill, and it has come up before, and it died in flying colors. This time around, we have to ensure it dies again by making these Congress people believe they will definitely lose if they pass. What they're trying to say is this. Any nonprofit out there, we can just say, let's say you have somebody from a nonprofit goes out and give out a flyer that says, let's take our country back. Donald Trump can say that's a terrorist act. The fact that you say let's take our country back is a terrorist act. And by declaring that, your tax exempt status can be unilaterally removed. And what that means then, in effect, is effectively your charity is dead. So there are a lot of charities right now that are doing some very important work. Example, Public Citizen, Move to Amend. All these guys do very important work, very controversial to right-wingers because their work does things like we want to make sure we want to avoid personhood. We want to make sure a fetus cannot be a person. The Abortion Liberation Front. All these organizations, they could actually all be shut down by Trump if this bill passes and he wakes up one morning and sends out a tweet and says, this organization is a terrorist group. And then his enforcers immediately go to work and shut them down, remove their tax status immediately. Now, I don't know what they have planned for folks like me who doesn't do anything. Now, KPFT, I do 2 programs a day. The program at KPFT, that is under a 501c3. And if you notice, I have a different character there than here. There are certain things that I simply don't say when I'm on air at KPFT. While when I'm here, I have full liberty to do as I please. But that is what everybody should call their congressperson and say, vote no to HR 9495. I hope, Brother E2247, I've completed the mission for now, but it's just for now. We have to keep the pressure on. But he says the woman who voted for Trump also voted for abortion to be legal. Talk about sick. That's what I spoke about earlier on. When Michael Rudnin said, talk about comparing our economy to the economies around the world and all incumbent government losing the election, what I wanted to point out to Brother Rudnin is that there was no congruency there. because those economies were still in dire straits. Our economy has recovered. We haven't recovered with regards to the structural issues within our economy, but our economy has recovered. All right, let's go to speak to the one. Turn it down, Ray, my dear brother.
Let me turn my TV down. I got it.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
We haven't recovered.
Okay. It's funny hearing myself through your TV.
Within our economy, but yeah. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Okay.
I can still hear it.
Yeah, I got some notes I had wrote down because I know we got a limited amount of time. You know, in relation to that video you saw, that's truly intriguing and sickening at the same time. It's like it's basically like the chicken voting for the fox to run the hen house.
Right. Exactly.
In relation to a comment that Carl Cox said, I think Frankie Lyman said it best when he sang, "Why do fools fall in love?" And in relation to Trump, I think Trump has become like America's drug. And unlike street drugs, this one comes with the fancy commercials. I can imagine it going something like this. Are you feeling broke, dejected by your country? Strong feelings of transphobia and xenophobia got you down? Well, now we're bringing back the new formula of Trump It All. Trump It All gives you an overwhelming feeling of euphoria and a general sense of knowing you're safe with a dictatorial leader. Side effects may include erosion of democracy, Christian nationalism, mass deportations and family separations, severe loss of workers' rights and human rights in general, environmental devastation, overall diarrhea of the mouth from active ingredient known as Trump. So ask your doctor. Trump It All good for you. Warning, not recommended for liberal snowflakes and lefty commies. May cause occasional desire to lose your freaking mind.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm gonna call you Tom C. Jr., man. I'm gonna call you Tom Zarnick Jr. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, Ray. I have two options for you, brother. I want to make a TikTok out of that. Will you do one of two things? Either go in front of your camera, record that, and send it to me, or email me the pros that I can say it and turn it into a TikTok. I don't know. From what I get, I don't know if you want to be on the internet or not, but if you don't, you can send it to me and I'll do it and I'll say, courtesy of Ray. Okay. I mean, I will actually put that out there, but I love that. And I want to make a commercial out of that with a few things, with a few graphics in there.
Oh, certainly. You know what? I think, just because you requested Egberto, I'm going to go to my app where I try to do my podcast, and I'm going to make sure I record it just for you.
But let me ask you another question. A TikTok can't be just a recording. Will you do the video as well?
I mean, yeah, I could do the video.
Thank you.
I mean, it's gonna be a video recording. I'm gonna have my little fancy background.
Great, that's what I want. Could do that for me and then send it to me, okay?
All right, brother, you got that. Appreciate it.
I love that. That sounded great. And Brady says, "Oh, go Ray." Anyway, thank you, brother. We talk tomorrow.
All right.
Peace.
Take care.
Hey, guys, was that great or was that great? All right, let's see. Carl Cox says, tax churches. I agree, Carl. Their main goal is to get money so they can grow their flock, not to help people meet their needs for food, medical care, and shelter. I agree. Eric Hayes says, Ray, that was good, but weird info. Yeah, but it was true, though. It was true. That's the thing. Oh, my God. Brigitte is calling. My dear, beautiful Brigitte. How are you doing, my dear?
Now, that was so good for Ray. Oh, my God. I was cracking up.
Was that bus or what?
Oh, man. What a commercial. I love it. You got to record that thing.
I am going to record that. I sat down, listened to it. I was like, when the hell did he write that? You know how we have Tom C. coming up with the limericks, even though he didn't have one for us today. Maybe he'll have one for us tomorrow. Who knows? Actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to. Hey, I better warn everybody. I may not be live tomorrow because I'm having to drive the Panamanians to Austin to catch their flight to Panama. So I'm not sure yet. I think I have to help out Roberto to do that. So I'll let you guys know in the chat, but whether I come or not, I'll have something special, okay?
All righty. Listen, I wanted to say one thing. And
yes.
I was speaking to my cousins and my aunts and uncles and stuff for the last week over in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and they cannot get Project 2025 over there. They kept on talking to me about it when I was showing them stuff and talking on Messenger. And they were like, we didn't understand when they had the campaign what they were saying about a playbook and Project 2025 because we keep Googling it, but we can't get it over here. I said, what do you mean you can't get it? You just can't get it anywhere. Now they're in Northern Ireland, which is under English control, so I don't know, but they can't get it. So I tried to give them stuff. I couldn't get it. So I was just giving them like means of like the breakdown of it. And they were like, oh my God. And she said, we told everybody we're in such despair. What the hell is going on? Are you sure it's not propaganda? Who wrote they didn't know anything about it at all. So finally I was able to give them a link to NPR. I think it was NPR that broke it down. You know, I said, this is the breakdown. Who wrote it? Everything. And I said, it started in whatever Reagan was around. It was called something else with an M.
The Heritage Foundation. Yeah.
And then, but it was back then, it was called the Mandate something. It had like 35 chapters. And then Reagan used like half of it. Trump used some of it. And then they changed the whole thing a couple of years ago to Project 2025. My point being is that I can't believe that that country could not access Project 2025 at all and still can't. They have no clue about it.
Well, here's the deal. If they go to the link to my site, they can actually download the entire 900 something pages.
Yeah, I did give them a PDF on it. I had it, but I mean, they're older than me, so they're not going to do all that. So I just gave them the short version and a couple of sites, and they were able to access them. I just couldn't believe that they had no idea what that was. She also said, in addition to this, that on her media, Biden was completely exposed and talked about as having severe dementia. That's all they heard, and the video clips that they saw. And she mentioned the one about him waving to nobody, and I said, that video was clipped. That is the propaganda.
That is propaganda.
Like, what? I said, he's in good health. Yes, he's old, but he's in perfect health. The other guy's a nut. Oh, they can't stand him as it is. I mean, they can't stand it. And then she said, gave me a piece, and I should be able to find it. She said, the entire Europe, the entire world is mourning and scared to death from this man. How could your country be so bloody? Yeah, she goes, how could your country be so bloody ignorant? Do they not educate you people over there? Can they read? What's wrong with them?
Well, that is a power of messaging and race. I mean, I hope you listen intently to this my second part of the video that I did after the Latino people spoke, because I mentioned something specifically that I want people to understand. The magic of the way the coalition that Donald Trump was able to build. And this is how stupid our media is. And I don't like to use that word. And I'm extending a little bit just to make this statement. This is how stupid our media is, MCP. It goes like this. Donald Trump figured out that we are a segmented media base right now. In other words, there's a time everybody listened to either ABC, CBS, or NBC. So you put an ad on any one of those and you reach about 70, 80% of the population. No problem. But now you segment the population into 2 and 3% regions, right? And each of these regions have a characteristic. What that means is that if I go to Grogan, I go to the bros. If I go to a different ones, I have a message for each of those guys. And then what I do, and that's what micro-targeting is all about. And believe it or not, Obama, I think, was the first one that used it in social media, micro-targeting. And that is now I can get a specific message to each one of these demographics that speaks to them. There are two ways to use that technique. One is to do good. In other words, tell the same message, but in a manner that promotes your method, your values to this group. Somebody may not a church person may not understand a woman having an abortion, but they would understand having a woman, you can't allow a woman to die. There are different ways that you speak to different people with the same value set. That's not what Trump did. What Trump did is he said, I am going to tell Palestinians that Kamala hates Palestinians. She's married to a Jewish guy. I will go to the Jews and tell them that she loves Palestinians. Okay. Even though she's married to a Jewish guy, she loves Palestinians. And if she's get elected, so he hits those two people that way. He goes to women and to white women, and he has a particular message about safety and trans for your kids that resonates with them. Then he goes to black. You notice the one person he doesn't know how to talk to are black women and black men, but and to some extent Latino women. But every other demographic, he was able to hit that nerve, lie to that nerve, not with truth, but with fear and racism. And to the white guy, you just have to do, hey, you're going to lose your space and you're losing your place to women, man. It's amazing the micro-targeting that was done. And that is what we have to learn how to do it, but for good. But anyway, Brigitte, I've got to...
Sorry about that, but we went late. Sorry.
No. But you gave me a chance to really say this. You have a wonderful day, Brigitte. Thank you.
You too, guys.
All right, folks, look, we got to get out of here. But before we get out of here, I want to ask you to please become donors of our program. You could become one by subscribing to our newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please become a paid subscriber of our newsletter. That gives you access to all of our books. It also gives you the longer version of all the blogs that I write. Most of my blogs have a summary plus the video. However, if you're a paid subscriber, you get the summary, the video, and my entire analyses. So I ask you so kindly to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. There are all the ways to contribute to us is found at politicsdoneright.com/support. But like I said, I would love for everyone who have the ability to do so to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter. It'll help us continue to put the message out. Anyway, folks, love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.